Just wanted to come in and tap in with y'all this fine afternoon. How is everybody doing out there in Cowboy Nation? I know it's been a couple of days. I had some things to take care of in my own personal life, but I'm back. We back in full effect, ready to get to it, man. So pretty much, if you read the title, you've seen Jerry Jones in the media. He's been cooing and he's in love with a player named Max Duggan. If you are not familiar who Max Duggan is, he was the quarterback for TCU the past couple of years, right? So he's a guy that's right from down here. They played right down here in the Texas area. Hoodlum, what's up with you, man? I appreciate you for tapping in with me. So yeah, he played right down here in the Texas area. He played pretty much in the Cowboys' back door. We seen a lot of football from this guy, and he's like Jerry Jones spoke very highly of him. From what the media is reporting right now, he is having a hell of a Senior Bowl. Hey, Regina Green, what's good with you? I appreciate you for tapping in with me. So, like, they're really saying that he's playing like the best quarterback at the Senior Bowl right now. I don't know what they will do to boost his draft prospects or whatnot, but they saying he's performing very well right now, and they say that he's been the most impressive, quarterback out there in terms of his accuracy, in terms of him commanding a huddle and things like that. They say he looks like the real deal right now. So, I'm going to jump into it. I'm going to give you some college numbers for Max Duggan. He's okay. He's not better than Dak, though. Nah. Like, there's not going to be a single quarterback drafted that is better than Dak Prescott as of this day, right? Dak Prescott is a 7-year veteran in the NFL. He's a multi-time Pro Bowler, former Rookie of the Year. He's the Dallas Cowboys, all-time leader in passing touchdowns in a single season. He threw 37 in 2021. So, like, realistically, and he's top 10 in passer rating, pass 10 in completion percentage, top 10 in touchdown interception ratio. So, just by the merit of what he's done so far, like, there's not a quarterback coming into the league that's going to be better on paper than Dak Prescott. Like, there might be some guys with potential, might be guys with bigger arms, might be guys that are faster. But there is not a single player that's going to come in and give you the same production as Dak Prescott year one as Dak Prescott will for you in year 8. So, like, if we were to bring in a quarterback to replace Dak Prescott, we are setting the Cowboys franchise back 5 years, right? So, I'm gonna just tackle that right now. Any quarterback that the Dallas Cowboys are going to draft is going to be a guy who they're going to try to develop behind Dak Prescott for the next 2 to 4 years. Dak Prescott has 2 seasons left on his contract. Odds are if they extend him, they're going to extend him another 2 years. I don't think this 10-year extension thing is even possible. So odds are we are drafting a guy to be behind Dak Prescott for the next 4 seasons. This is not a guy that's going to come in and take over for Dak Prescott immediately. This is not a guy that's going to come in here and threaten Dak Prescott because, there's not nobody like that in this draft. Even the top prospects in this year's draft, like Stroud and and Bryce Young, like they have question marks around him. Bryce Young has question marks about his size. He's only 5'11". Stroud, he has no question marks about his consistency. So, and a guy like Max Duggan, he's definitely not going to come in here and threaten Dak Prescott. Eli, what's up with you, man? Hey, Samuel Rowe. Yeah, Jerry talks a lot. But, for a guy like me who's a content creator that spent his time making content about the Dallas Cowboys, like, I love it. Like, Jerry Jones opened his mouth, and I got content for the next week or so. Like, it's going to be a slow offseason, and Dak Prescott is just giving – not Dak Prescott, but Jerry Jones just giving us a bunch to talk about in the meantime. So let's dig into it, man. Let's talk about Max Duggan. So measurables. Right now, he is listed as 6'2", and he's a 210-pound dual threat quarterback. For TCU, he played in 47 games, and he got 43 starts during Beatrice Adams. He did not look good at all in that game against Georgia, but we're going to touch on that. I'm going to give you some of the goods about him. I'm going to read the scouting report. I'm going to give you his raw numbers, and then I'm going to give y'all how I feel about Max Duggan. And then, we'll talk about some comments that were made by somebody who's not going to be named. Michael Lockhart, what's up? We're going to talk about some comments that were made by somebody that will not be named and how I completely disagree with them. right? Because I don't use my platform to take personal shots at people. But I will, dispute the inaccurate narratives going around. Yeah, he played for TCU. So Max Duggan, right? 6'2", 210 pounds. He started 43 games for the TCU Horned Frogs. And in his career as a starter, he was 25 of 18 as a starting quarterback, playing for the TCU Horned Frogs. So if you actually think about it, this last season was his best year ever. In the seasons prior, he started 10 games in 2019. He went 3-7 as a starter. He only completed 53.4% of his passes, only threw for 2,077 yards. He had 15 touchdown passes, 10 interceptions, and he rushed for 6 touchdowns, right? So that was his first time starting. That was his freshman season. I get it. He was new to the college platform. So whatever. Like you expect him not to be the best version of himself at that point. Fast forward, 2020. He started 9 games. In those games, he went 6-3 as a starter. He completed 60.8% of his passes, passed for 1,795 yards, threw for 10 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions, and he also ran for 10 touchdowns. So that's a big improvement from the first year to the second year. So when he was healthy, he remained a starter, going out for the rest of his tenure. 2021, he started in 10 games. He went 4-6. Now he won less games, but he was a better passer. At that point, he completed 63.9% of his passes. He threw for 16 touchdowns, was a career high for the time, to only 6 interceptions. But his rushing went down. He only ran for 352 yards, and he only ran for 3 touchdowns. All right, so those his first 3 seasons as a starter for TCU. Right? Hey, Miss Evans, what's good with you? I appreciate you for tapping in with me. Hey, DC for Life Fix. Okay. I read it right that time. What's up with you, man? I appreciate you for coming in and spending some time with us. So those his first 3 seasons as a starter, right? If he came out earlier, he probably would not even be on anybody's draft board. Like, he was a very average quarterback his first 3 seasons at TCU. Now, this last season is what turned him up. Like, Max Duggan had an outstanding senior season as a starting quarterback, right? You gotta like it. Like, stepping up, playing your best football, when you're on your way out the door, that shows progression. That shows that he's learned from his past mistakes as a starter. And this is what he did in 2022. He played in 15 games. He started 14. He was 12-2 as a starting quarterback this year. Right? He completed 63.7% of his passes. He threw for a career high 3,689 yards, and he also threw for a career high 32 passing touchdowns to only 8 interceptions. His rushing got back to the norm. He ran for 9 rushing touchdowns, and he added in 423 yards on the ground. He also has the distinction of making it to the national championship game. So I will give him kudos for that. And he was able to beat the Michigan Wolverines, in the prior playoff game. So that is high marks for him in that aspect alone, right? He did good this season. He had a good season this year. All right, and now that we're here, we see what he did. Let's look at his cumulative numbers. So for his career as a starter, as a quarterback in general in college, like I said, 25-18 as a starter, completed 60.3% of his passes, threw for 9,618 yards, threw for 73 touchdowns to only 28 interceptions, and he ran for 1,856 yards, and he added in 28 rushing touchdowns, right? So you add that up, he had total touchdowns, 73 plus 28. So he had 101 total touchdowns. I'm not sure of his fumbles loss to give you his total turnovers, but it's not a bad mark. He had 101 total touchdowns as a college player, and it is what it is. And I got absolutely dog walked by Georgia. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to get to. So like those are cumulative numbers, and now we're going to go and look at his actual scouting report. Right? We're going to look at his actual scouting report. So these are the positives from his scouting report. Super tough signal caller, and I'm reading it word for word. This is not my thoughts or anything. Like I did not know. Well, I ain't gonna say I didn't know who he was, but I did not put a lot of research into Mr. Duggan prior to this. So there are people that are paid to be professional scouts. I'm just going to read to you word for word what they said about him. I'm gonna let y'all form your own opinions on it. So his strengths from his scouting report: super tough signal caller, who will play through injuries. He's got a sturdy frame and a strong arm, which will fit in the pros. All right. Able to extend the play and escape the rush in an effort to buy time. Right. And that makes sense. We already noted that he was a dual threat quarterback. He's able to run. You see that with the 28 rushing touchdowns. And that also comes into play in his ability to move around in the pocket and extend plays, right? Uses his eyes well to keep safeties at bay, although probably needs to do this more often, right? So that is good. On the pro level, the safeties react much quicker than they do in the college level. Eye manipulation, in order to complete a throw, is very essential to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Like you hear people talk about all the time, moving the safety with your eyes. So while you look one direction, and then you come back and throw in the opposite direction. You get the safety to step out of the way of the throwing lane or to step down. That is so they say that he does that, but they say he needs to do it more, right? Athletic quarterback who is a threat to lead the pocket and gain positive yardage at any time. Possesses very good vision, balance, elusiveness, and excellent speed and power as a runner. Always battles for extra yardage and not afraid to take on linebackers. So what they are saying, at 6'2", 210 pounds, he is a runner like Dak Prescott was when he first came into the league. He is not a pure burner, but Dak Prescott used to stiff arm linebackers when he came into the league. He used to stiff arm safeties. He used to run through tackles. And Dak Prescott is a heavier guy. Dak Prescott, is anywhere between 230 pounds, 240 pounds. So, but in their style of running, they are similar in that aspect. They are power runners. They would run through the tackle. They would drag people with them to get extra yardage. Now, of course, Dak Prescott does not do this nearly as much as he used to because while he was doing this at one point, he snapped his leg. But, like that is something that Dak Prescott does. So, just to speak positively for Max Duggan, I always say that the backup quarterback, because if we draft him, he will be the backup. The backup quarterback should mirror the starting quarterback. If they do a lot of the same things, even if one of the guys does something better, you do not have to rehaul or retool your offense for them to fit in. So just from reading that part, in his scouting report, I would roll with Max on that. I would. Plays right away, sneaky fast. Guy wants to date your granddaughter. Yeah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right, so let's finish out this scouting report. All right. Gets the ball out quickly, making split-second decisions, good short to intermediate level accuracy, demonstrating the ball placement to allow receivers to run after catch. All right. So that's cool. They say he's not the type of guy to hold on to the ball. They're saying that he processes the game quickly. He gets through his progressions very well. And he's good in the short and intermediate accuracy, right? It's another positive note moving forward. We know that we're going to be doing a lot of short and intermediate passes going forward because Mike McCarthy will be the play caller, and Mike McCarthy runs a West Coast style offense. The short and intermediate passes in the West Coast offense are his bread and butter. Like 80 to 90% of the routes in the West Coast offense are quick hitters. They're getting the ball out. There's going to be a lot of 3-step drops. He's good at that. He will fit right into the system, right? So Duggan must be accounted for when used in the read option game, especially in the red zone where his skills show through. Again, we know he's a dual threat quarterback, right? That's why he has 28 rushing touchdowns. We know mobile quarterbacks, are the wave in the NFL right now. Like everybody can pretty much take off. They may not be Lamar Jackson, but even Patrick Mahomes is able to run. Joe Burrow is able to run, right? Josh Allen showdown can run. Like he looked like a running back his first 2 seasons in the NFL. So that is the way that the NFL is progressing. You have to have a mobile quarterback. The pocket passers. Well, I ain't gonna say the pocket passers. The statues, like the guys like Tom Brady, who can't really move. Those guys are going the way of the dinosaurs. They're going extinct in the NFL. You have to have a quarterback that can move a little bit. And Duggan, like he is a good runner. So like having a guy that you have to account for in the read option, that is good. He has good, not elite arm strength and can easily make all the NFL throws with effortless deep passes, right? So that's cool. Doesn't have the best arm in the world, but he has a good enough arm. That's fine. Duggan plays with confident demeanor and has the athleticism to move out of the pocket and create plays out of structure. Again, that is another calling card. Hey, Cowboys fan 95, what's good, Henny? You're right. Your backup quarterback shouldn't be a big drop off from QB1. Yeah. Well, we had to rehaul the entire offense behind Cooper Rush, right? When Cooper Rush was our starting quarterback, we had to rehaul the entire offense, right? We didn't see the read option. We didn't see quarterback keepers. We didn't see, the naked bootlegs a lot. We didn't see them change Cooper Rush's platform from where he got to throw from. Like Cooper Rush is limited in the way that he can be used compared to Dak Prescott. What's up, Henny? Any idea who's going to be our OC? I got some ideas. I actually think that it's going to be the Schottenheimer guy that's already on the team. I think that's the way that the Dallas Cowboys are going to move. I think he will be a fine offensive coordinator since he's just going to be a glorified assistant. Since Big Mike McCarthy is going to be the one calling the plays. But, I think Schottenheimer is going to end up being the offensive coordinator. Of course, they had to make they had to do the Rooney Rule, and they had to interview some people of color. That's fine. I understand. They got to go to the procedure. They can't just hire the guy they want in immediately. But, I feel like it's probably going to be Schottenheimer. Yeah. So, on the positive note, right, we already know that Max Duggan is not going to be a Dak Prescott replacement off the bat, right? Max Duggan is going to be a Cooper Rush replacement. Cooper Rush is a free agent right now. He's going to go somewhere and probably make more money because he does have a winning record as a starting quarterback. I cannot take that away from him. He has a winning record as a starting quarterback. He played admirably. Now, he did not play like an elite quarterback when he got on the field, and we were a bottom offense when he was the quarterback. However, there are worse options out there than Cooper Rush, to go out there and start some games for you. Now, he will not ever be a franchise guy, but I'm pretty sure that Cooper Rush can go get paid to be a bridge quarterback somewhere, right? So a team that does not have a quarterback right now, they can bring Cooper Rush in, at least be somewhat competitive. So he's probably gone. Max Duggan is going to come in and he's going to take over the Cooper Rush role. He's going to be a guy who's going to perceive Dak Prescott as a big brother, right? He's going to be a guy that's going to be under Dak Prescott's tutelage for however long Dak Prescott is here. We already know that Dak Prescott is a stand-up guy, right? Like Cooper Rush speaks very highly of him. All Dak Prescott backups speak very highly of him. Like he's not a guy that is going to stunt the growth of a backup quarterback. He's going to help them. Like Dak Prescott got genuine love for his teammates like that. So you can trust Dak Prescott to help develop him. You have Dak on this team for at least the next 2 years. Probably going to be the next 4 or 5 years, depending on how long this extension is. So you can get him ready. if he has to be the guy going forward. Hey, how are you doing today, Tyler? Sign a big name free agent because we need our weapons with Lamb Gallup. We're gonna get to that too. Because that's actually going to be part of the second discussion on here. Because, like I said, there were some comments made about how this offense was running. Like it sounded like they were trying to put a lot of the blame on one particular player. When I have statistical proof, like it's probably on the receivers. But we're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that right after we finish talking about Max Duggan, how I feel about him, and we'll go from there. So we read out the positives. These are the weaknesses in his game, and this is why he's projected to be a late round pick, not a late first round pick, a late round pick, like a 4th, 5th, 6th round prospect. His mechanics lack any kind of refinement, and he often plays erratically. Right, these are the weaknesses from his scouting report. Has only average long accuracy on his passes and regularly displays poor footwork. Too often stare down his receivers, leading to picks. Duggan often holds the ball too long. Well, I take that back from earlier then. While he keeps his eyes up while moving, his mechanics get increasingly sloppy once he's pushed off his spot. Has struggled with his decision making and needs to improve his pre-snap recognition skills to read defenses and free blitzes. Doesn't decipher information as quickly as you would like, but does see the entire field and understands coverage. Probably not big enough to consistently hold up at the next level. If he continues to play reckless abandon, he'll need to learn to protect his body. The player comparison that they came up with for Duggan is Gardner Minshew, who he himself right now is a backup quarterback. And this is the summary. This is the summary from his scouting report. On the surface, it seems Duggan should be an obvious top prospect with good size and experienced starter for a top program, 100+ quarterback rating for his final 2 years, which is very impressive, an elite scrambler with all the agility and speed you could hope for in a through-threat quarterback, and combine this with the fact he ended up second in the Heisman voting. However, despite all of these headline reasons to make him an obvious high-round pick, there are some major issues with Duggan's game. He's very inconsistent as a passer and struggles reading defenses, which forces him to rely on his impressive running ability to get him out of trouble far too often. He's also not particularly accurate quarterback who often makes his receiver reach for the ball and doesn't throw enough perfect passes. Duggan will be viewed as a late round pick by pro teams and a player who could start in a spread system, but who will probably end up as a career backup at the pro level. Right? They did do an update though. Duggan hasn't. No, it was updated at 2/02/23. Duggan hasn't impressed so far at the Senior Bowl practices. He's been the most consistent quarterback of the group. He displayed impressive accuracy and poise under pressure. So, like, he has some things that can raise his stock. The combine can raise his stock, things like that. But when you're looking at somebody like him, right, you're looking at him, he is going to be a backup quarterback behind Dak Prescott for years if we draft him. He is not going to come in and be pro ready, especially not with the deficiencies that we have on this team. Right? Dak Prescott had some negative reviews and stuff on his on his scouting report. And we all know, right? And we all know what Dak Prescott was able to walk into. He had the best offensive line in football. He had Ezekiel Elliott, who was the lead rushing leader, right, when he came in. He had Jason Witten, who was a Hall of Fame tight end. He had Dez Bryant, who was an all-pro receiver. All right. And, we had some other weapons. Terrence Williams, although he flamed out quickly, he was a consistent number 2 in Dak Prescott's rookie year. Right. We had some players, Dak Prescott with Cole Beasley. We had Cole Beasley on this team. It's like Dak Prescott was set up for success his first season, and he built upon that. Max Duggan, if he were to come in and have to play immediately, he is going to play behind an offensive line that was 28 in pass protection, right? Ezekiel Elliott is not the same running back that he was, and outside of CeeDee Lamb, like the other passing targets on this team are not up to par. We're being honest. So yes, and you're right. As I touched on, Duggan fits the West Coast system, right? He fits the West Coast style offense that we're going to run. So I could see realistically him getting drafted in the late round by the Dallas Cowboys. But when ideas like this are brought up, right, when people are talking about drafting a player, I want them to have realistic expectations for what to expect. Max Duggan is not going to come in here and take anybody's job. If Max Duggan is playing or starting a game for you, Dak Prescott has been injured, right? And you need to hope that he can come in and give you what Cooper Rush gave you, right? If he comes in and plays his rookie season, Dak Prescott has been injured, and your season is hanging in the balance. Cooper Rush, helped. Now, while he was not the driving force, with him under center, you went 4-1. Max Duggan is going to have to, duplicate that if he were to hit the field, right? Because that's the only way he's going to start. He is not NFL ready. He is not pro ready, right? So I can see him as an interesting prospect of somebody that the Dallas Cowboys have seen a lot because he does play games in Dallas in their stadium, right? He's played games in their stadium. So I can see the Dallas Cowboys taking a flyer on him being the backup on the Dallas Cowboys for the next 3 to 4 years. And, there still will be a section of the fan base when Dak Prescott doesn't play well that's going to call for Max Duggan because they always do. There was a section of the fan base that called for Andy Dalton. They got what they asked for, and he was horrible. There was a section of the fan base that used to call for Cooper Rush, and while he did help us win games, he completed under 60% of his passes, and he led the league in turnover-worthy plays in the short time that he was there. I say go O-line with our first pick. We need a young left tackle. Well, this is the thing. We have a young left tackle. I just don't know if the Cowboys are going to use him as a left tackle or they're going to use him as a left guard. They moved him around, and I'm talking about Tyler Smith. They've moved him around so much, you really can put him anywhere now, and he'll be effective. If you feel like Tyler Smith was going to make a better guard and tackle, you need to move him to left guard and leave him there so he can develop more. Right, and then you can bring in a young stud at left tackle. Really though, the Cowboys need a right tackle because Terrence Steele is hurt and he's not under contract. So you're gonna still start the season without Terrence Steele more than likely, and you're still gonna have issues trying to run the ball unless you sure up that right tackle position. Right, so you saw the way that offensive line regressed once Terrence Steele left the lineup. Like we were averaging over, close to 5 yards a carry at one point before his injury, and then it dropped. We were barely averaging 2 yards a carry, for the ending of the season. We need another Tyler Smith in the draft. Yeah, if you can give me somebody that played as well as Tyler Smith did, that has the versatility to play at multiple, offensive line positions, I'm fine with that. But it also depends on what we do in free agency, to shore up our skill positions. Because let's be honest. And now I'm glad y'all brought that up. Because we're gonna just go ahead and segue into the next part of this discussion. Right? As you can read, offense was too complicated for the receivers, not Dak Prescott. There was somebody that has a platform, right? I don't send shots, right? I just talk about what was said, so I don't even have to use their name. But there was somebody that they played, so you would think that they would have more understanding of things like this. But basically, just to go into layman terms about what they said, they put a large portion of the struggles of the offense on Dak Prescott and went as far to say as the offense may have been too complicated for Dak Prescott. right? That is what they said. They said that there were guys getting open, that Dak Prescott missed them, that Dak Prescott couldn't make the reads, yada, yada. I'm going to respectfully disagree with that. And here is why. This is not at all the first year that Dak Prescott played in this offense, right? Dak Prescott has been operating and playing like a top 10 quarterback in this offense for the past 4 seasons, right? Because we do all understand Kellen Moore became the offensive play caller in 2019. The principles he was using in 2019 are the same principles he was using in 2022, his final year as our offensive coordinator, right? In those seasons, Dak Prescott produced, right? Dak Prescott played very well in those seasons. If you go back and look at the numbers, now it's easy to throw blame and say it's Dak Prescott's fault because of the interceptions, but we have 3 other seasons to look at. Like we have 3 other seasons to look at to dispel, these overreactions. In 2019, Dak Prescott completed 65% of his passes, threw for 4,902 yards, which is the second most yards in franchise history for a single season. He also threw for 30 touchdowns and only 11 interceptions, and he also rushed for 3 more touchdowns. So Dak Prescott had a 33 touchdown season, and he only threw 11 picks in this same offense, right? He was top 10 in a lot of major passing categories. He played well, right? Same offense. He excelled, right? 2020, Dak Prescott only played 5 games though, right? But Dak Prescott in those 5 games, he threw for 9 touchdowns, he rushed for 3 touchdowns, and he even caught a touchdown, right? He threw for 4 interceptions. That's cool. But point is, Dak Prescott was on pace before he got injured that year to throw for 6,000 yards, which would have been an NFL record, right? So, like, these are things that Dak Prescott was doing in this offense. And then I know we have recency bias because just the year before, right, Dak Prescott completed 68.8% of his passes, which was top 3 in the NFL, threw for 4,449 yards, threw for 37 touchdowns to only 10 interceptions, right? And he had a rushing touchdown. So Dak Prescott just last season, right, just in the 2021 season, was top 3 in completion percentage, was top 5 in passing touchdowns, was at the bottom in turnovers and interception thrown, right? Like Dak Prescott was a legit MVP candidate for the first half of the season just last year. And while that tapered off, he had a great season in this same offense, right? So when Dak Prescott was setting, and the 37 touchdowns he threw set a record for the Dallas Cowboys franchise. Like, that's more touchdown passes in a single season than Tony Romo. That's more touchdown passes in a single season than Troy Aikman. That's more touchdown passes in a single season than Roger Staubach. Like Dak Prescott did that in this offense while also having 104 passer rating, right? So to say that Dak Prescott, can't adjust to this offense, that this offense was too complicated for Dak Prescott, when he excelled in this offense every year except for this year, right? And there are 2 big things that are different this year, right? There are 2 big things that are different this year for Dak Prescott. Hey, T Smooth, what's up, man? I appreciate you for tapping in with me. So, 1, Dak Prescott broke his damn hand. He broke his thumb, had to miss 5 games, and then he came right back. And we're gonna act like that, like people just he Wolverine or something. He just healed up. He had no issues from that. And then look at the players he had around him. Like, we gutted this receiving core last year, right? We got rid of Amari Cooper, who was probably his most experienced receiver. right, who was consistently his number one receiver, even last year. I know CeeDee Lamb ended up being the leading receiver, but Amari Cooper was still Dak Prescott go-to guy. We got rid of Cedric Wilson, who had 600 yards and 6 touchdowns in this offense. And then I know a lot of people don't talk about it. We also got rid of Malik Turner, who had three receiving touchdowns in this offense. So we got rid of a lot of production, and we only replaced it with Noah Brown, who was already on the roster, who was a special teams player, Michael Gallup, who missed part of the year, right? He missed time, was coming off an ACL injury, and then you could tell he was hobbled still because he just had to have another cleanup on his other leg right after the season was over. Then you look, we brought in T.Y. Hilton, who was 33 years old, was on his couch. So for people to act like it's Dak Prescott when he's already proven he can play in this system, already proven he can make the reads in this system, already has proven he can look like an MVP candidate in this system, is crazy. It's lazy. And, I actually expect better from the person who said this because they have a platform. They were a former NFL player at one point. So, they should, just use overall common sense in some of these analysis they're making. Now, I don't use my platform to throw shots at anybody, especially people out there that I respect. So, that's why I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do a name drop and be messy. But, there was a bad analysis. It was a bad analysis by that person this time. They have a lot of other good takes that I agree with. But there was a bad analysis. We have 3 years worth of proof that Dak Prescott is not the problem in this offense, right? And we have enough common sense, from the prior 3 years in this offense to know, maybe the broken thumb played a part of it. Maybe, having a bottom tier receiving core played a part of it. So we're not going to act like Dak Prescott ran out here, with an all-star team at receiver. CeeDee Lamb is that guy. He has proven to be a number one receiver. He made an all-pro team. He is great. But after CeeDee Lamb, you start talking about Noah Brown, who was a career practice squad guy. You talk about an injured Michael Gallup. You talk about a 33-year-old T.Y. Hilton. No. We did not have a great receiving core. They were bottom in separation, and Dak Prescott led the league in turnovers on non-turnover worthy plays. All these things point to it being more of a receiving core issue than a Dak Prescott issue. Tyler said Kellen Moore was a great play designer and everything, but he didn't know situational football, and that's a huge problem, or was a huge problem. Yes, situational play calling is always much more important than play design, right? Knowing the time on the clock, the down and distance, all that. Do you have a chance to double up for points? Are you trying to keep the ball out of the hands of the? Are we playing for a first down? Or are we playing for touchdowns? You need to know all these different things. And Kellen Moore, he was aggressive, but he didn't know how to tone that back sometimes. Calling up a deep pass play, for Noah Brown on a 3rd and long when all you need is to make the Jaguars use their last timeout. It was crazy. What up, Henny and Cowboy Life Nation? Us real diehard riders to the wheels fall off. Fans know that Dak wasn't the problem. Yeah, well, that's the thing. When there are respected people in the community that use their platform to spread misinformation, we have to speak up because there are people that use and trust these people's platforms to get quality content and get quality, unbiased football breakdowns. And sometimes I don't think they get that from some of these people. Sometimes I think they abuse the trust of the fans by putting this out. When you look at the numbers, you can look at the film, you can look at the past production, and you can clearly see, that Kellen Moore option routes wasn't used when Cooper Rush was quarterback. Exactly. Right, exactly. It was not used, and it should not have really been used when Dak Prescott came back. It should not have been used when Dak Prescott came back. They were trying to get greedy, And in theory, option routes are hard to guard because you can because really you're always the defender will always be wrong on an option route if the option route is ran correctly, right? If the receiver, if the defensive player doesn't let them cross their face, right, the ball you should be able to hit them with the comeback route. If the option is a goal or a comeback, then if they're playing off, then the comeback should be there. If they are overplaying the comeback, then the goal should be there. The option is like having a counter punch to whatever the defense wants to do. The problem is the wide receiver and the quarterback have to read it at the same time, the same way. Because when you run multiple option routes, and when you against a defense that shows multiple looks, it may not even confuse the quarterback, but it might confuse the wide receiver, right? So let's say they're showing cover 3 pre-snap, but they bail out and it's actually cover 4. Not just even cover 2, it's cover 4. Let's say they bail from cover 3 to cover 4 from the pre-snap, right? Well, the quarterback might realize that it's no longer cover 3, they're actually in cover 4. But it doesn't mean that the wide receiver has time to process that, right? Because the wide receiver is focused on the man in front of him and trying to get in and out of the route. So there are plenty of opportunities to have miscommunication between the quarterback and the wide receiver when you run option routes. So things like that can happen. And then it's not like there's a lot of time, to analyze or dissect what's going on. The ball has to be out in about 2 to 2.5 seconds, right? Or you miss your window opportunity to make the throw. So it's not as simple as people make it. It's easy for people to rewatch a play, slow down for 5 minutes and see all these different things happening. And they forget the quarterback has under 3 seconds to make the right decision with the football, right? The wide receiver has less than 3 seconds to make the right decision on the option route. So things like that, mistakes happen. You cannot be perfect at all the time, right? And there's too much room for error in that regard. So toning down the option routes would have been great. Seeing more West Coast principles would have been great. What do we need to draft first, Henny? This is my thought process. The free agency happens before the draft, right? So it's really just going to depend on it's really going to depend on what we do in free agency. If we go out there, we sign, a big name offensive tackle or a good offensive guard, right? We're probably not going to use that first round pick on a tackle or a guard, right? If we go out and let's say, I don't think we'll do it, but if we go out and we sign, Josh Jacobs, who was the leading rusher or something in free agency for a long-term deal, we're not going to then turn around and use our first round pick on Bijan Robinson. So in my mind, I always let free agency pass first, because then I know what holes we actually have on our team still. Because the Dallas Cowboys don't usually double dip, right? If you sign a big name player or a high dollar player, you're not going to use a premier pick for the same position, right? When we signed Ezekiel Elliott to that massive extension, we did not think about going out and getting a running back in free in the draft or anything. So we have to let that play out. And listen, I would take Hopkins. He is under contract though. It just really would depend on how much they want to give up for him. He would be a good fit. He would be a guy, that can he would be a guy that can complement CD Lamb. But we'll just have to see on the price point, because I don't actually want to give up a pick for a 31-year-old player, right? I really hope the Dallas Cowboys draft Hyatt. Like Jalen Hyatt is by far and away like the best wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys, in my opinion. Like he has size, right? He has speed. Like he is a guy that is projected to run a 4.3 or sub 4.3 at his combine. And we're a team that lacks a lot of speed. Everybody on our team is a 4.5 guy. The 4.2 guy is strictly a punt returner because we don't use him. Tony Pollard would have been your second fastest offensive player. He's not even under contract right now. So this team theoretically is one of the slowest teams in football in terms of home run hitters. And we need more speed. You can't rely on Tony Pollard because he's injured and he's not under contract. They have not found a way to get Turpin the ball. You need more speed at the wide receiver position at this point. So I would definitely draft Hyatt. No, he's projected to be a 4.3 guy. He's not a little 4.3 guy. He's a guy who's 6 feet tall with 4.3 speed. Like that is definitely a bad matchup, right? I like Hyatt or Rashee Rice are perfect for us. Hyatt, Rashee Rice are fast. Yes, I definitely want a wide receiver with some speed that can make defensive coordinators rotate some safety help over their way. You know, I feel like we can do great things with him, but time will tell. Time will tell. So yeah. So now that I got that out the way, what do y'all want to talk about? I done talked for about 47 minutes. The rest of the show, we can touch on some things y'all want to talk about. Rico was fast at the Senior Bowl. All right, let me pull up this guy y'all talking about. Oh, Rice was fast at the Senior Bowl. Let me pull up some stats on Rashee Rice then. This is like the fourth or fifth time I've seen people bring his name up. Rashee Rice. All right. Let's take a look at him. Played at SMU. All right. And he's 6 foot tall. Okay. Rashee Rice. Right. Let's go. All right. He listed as 6 foot tall, 200 pounds. This has him listed as 6'2". So there is an inconsistency with his height. One website has him listed as 6'2". One website has him listed as 6 foot. That's neither here nor there. All right, let's see. Let's take a look at his stats because that's all I care about. What is his statistics? Bear with me while I find it. Okay. Well, he listed as 6'2" on here as well. So this season, Rice had 96 receptions for 1,355 yards and 10 receiving touchdowns. He averaged 14.1 yards of reception. Okay. He's had 600 yards or better the last 2 seasons. He had 9 receiving touchdowns last year, 5 the year before. His worst season was his freshman season. That's to be expected. Okay, he played at SMU. Let's look at his scouting report then. Y'all keep bringing his names up. I haven't did a deep dive yet into any of these guys, but let's look at his draft profile, right? Let's take a look at Rice's draft profile. I would say 6'2" in shoes. That's a good way of looking at it. Just like they used to say, Kevin Garnett was 7'1" in shoes. He's about 6'11". All right, so the draft. All right, here we go. Here's his scouting. Senior. All right. Top reasons to buy into Rashee Rice. Ball skills. All right. I guess he has good ability to track down the ball. Size and athleticism were a plus for him. Right. So they say he's big enough and strong enough. Ability to make defenders miss in space and win after catch. Love to hear it, especially in a West Coast offense. consistent development through his time in college. Yeah. And as I pointed out, right, he's gotten better every year. His worst season was his freshman season. His best season has been his senior season. Right? He fits inside of a spread style offense. Okay. So let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Score Marino grades him at 84 out of 100. And he has second round value. So that puts him as a second round pick. And he has a comp Chris Godwin. They're saying he could be Chris Godwin. So I quit now. Just using his comp. I would take him. If he could be Chris Godwin for us, or if he could be our Chris Godwin, I would take that. Because adding Chris Godwin to this offense would be deadly. I'm not saying that would happen, nor will I ever put the weight of the world on a rookie quarterback. So, can he develop into that? Maybe so. So, yes. So, yeah. All right, so you got me sold. I haven't looked at any video of him yet. So, but just his scouting report is good. All right, so let me see. The need to acclimate. So these are the reasons for concerns, though, before I jump all in on the bandwagon. The need to acclimate to more diverse route tree. I don't know if that's going to be a huge issue in our style of offense, because in our style of offense, I know you've seen the joking meme going around, but they're not lying. There's going to be a lot of slants. If he can run a slant, he can play in our offense, right? There's going to be the meat and potatoes of this offense going forward. Slants, flat, over route, post, maybe a corner. Like, he does not have to have a huge route tree to play in the West Coast offense, especially, if he's, hey, Joe Trentrina from Italy, what's good with you, man? I appreciate you tapping in with me. Yeah, so, like, that's not even really a concern for me. Most wide receivers can run slants. Most of them already can run a post, right? So, like, he doesn't have to have a huge diversity in his route tree to play in the kind of system we're going to play in. So I think he'll be fine. Like, everybody already knows how to run a slant. Everybody already know how to run a post, right? He probably is not going to be the guy going out on the flat route most of the time. So we'll be fine. He'll be fine. Now, they say he needs to adjust to a pro-style offense that affords him less space. Well, that is true. Everybody does have to adjust to the NFL, the size and the speed, not having that big of a pocket, but not that much space. But we'll see. I say we are going to be running a West Coast offense. They're going to be space. Now, this is the only thing on here that I am concerned about. He apparently has some issues with drops. A lot of young receivers do. There's no reason to shy away from a player with all this potential. If he has an issue with drops, then so be it. Like, that's what the coaches. That's what coaching is for. A lot of time, coaches or a lot of time drops are more mental than physical. So, like, you can coach them up to where you won't have that big of a drop issue. As long as the offense is not run by Kellen, I'm good. I need the offense run like Dan Quinn's defense. Well, in theory, you will have an offense ran like Dan Quinn's defense because you'll have the experience for that offense to be ran like that, right? Said Tank Dell drops a lot of balls in college too. Yeah. So, like, I'm not the guy that is super concerned about drops, right? Because we've seen plenty of players have drop issues early and then go on to be stars, right? So, like, having drop issues early is not an issue. That is what professional coaches are for. That's why we have a wide receiver coach on staff, right? That's his job to help develop these wide receivers so they don't have drop issues. One thing we do need to improve on is wide receiver screens. Well, You will see a lot of screens in the West Coast offense. You'll see a lot of slants. You'll see a lot of balls to the running back. Like that is the meat and potatoes of this offense. It's quick hitter. Like if you're ever worried about Dak Prescott getting into rhythm, you will never have to worry about that in this offense. Like he's gonna be comfortable. He's gonna be on time with the ball. Like this is a offense that is patent made for a quarterback like Dak Prescott. Yeah, CD was the drop the ball guy, then it got fixed just in time for the run. Yeah, like everybody was talking about CD Lamb drop problems at the beginning of the season. And as the season progressed, like CD Lamb no longer had a drop problem. Like you just need to give guys time to develop. You need to give guys. Yeah, he had dropped several balls in college. You know that it is what it is. Like you just gotta give guys time to develop. I am never going to not draft a guy just because of drops, right? Like if this guy is explosive, if this guy has the ability to be a good receiver, I can live even if he doesn't get the drops cleared up, immediately. Like we're talking only about a couple balls throughout the course of the season, right? We're talking about only a couple balls through the course of the season. Like I think the most drops in the season were like maybe 6 or something like that, right? But when you think about it, like CeeDee Lamb had like 90 receptions. So let's say there's something similar where to happen with this guy. Let's say he gives you 6. Let's say he gave you 50. Let's say if he gave you 50 catches, but he dropped 6 balls. Well, there's still a difference, right? There's still a difference of 44 balls. Like he caught 44 more balls than he dropped, right? So I can live with that. And as he develops, right? As he develops, I expect him to get better. So even if he does have a drop problem to start, I expect that drop problem to decrease as he gets more playing time. As long as he can get me touchdowns and first downs, I can live with a couple drops, right? Like I said, you have coaches on the staff for that to get them better with their hands. So that is not a reason I would not draft a guy, right? It's like that's something you work through. All right, so we spoke on him. Who's another player, right? Because we spoke on Max Duggan. He'll probably be a late round backup for us for the next couple of years. We spoke on Rashee Rice. What was another name y'all were throwing around? I saw Rice. I already spoke on Hyatt the other day. Y'all know I'm gonna go for Hyatt. So who's another prospect that y'all want a quick look at? How you feel about Noah Brown? I personally don't think he good. I don't think Noah Brown's gonna get re-signed by the Dallas Cowboys. Noah Brown is a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. I don't expect him to be back in the same role. I could be mistaken. But he did. Hold on, let's take a look at Noah Brown. Let's take a look at Noah Brown. He did the best that he could do for his skill level. It just wasn't good enough. Safeties. Well, with the prospect of us maybe losing, Donovan Wilson, we definitely need to look at safeties too. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at some of these safeties in the draft. Let's see. All right. Brian Branch from Alabama is a name that's on the board. He looked like he might be a top 10 pick. All right. Antonio Johnson is a safety from Texas A&M. Let's see more. I really have not done a lot of the draft stuff just yet. All right, so a couple names pop up. Jordan Battles, I have seen his name float around. But I don't know. I really, to be honest with you, I just want us to re-sign Donovan Wilson. Like, we don't even have to go draft a safety with a premium pick. Just re-sign Donovan Wilson. Re-sign Donovan Wilson. Give J. Ron Curtis an extension. You already have Malik Hooker. Like theoretically, you already have you already have a top 5 safety room. You just need to keep those guys together. Donovan Wilson had 5 sacks this year, right? Played great as a big nickel. Malik Hooker was good. Javon Curse was good. Just keep them guys together. Like you don't have to go out and like. There's nothing wrong with our safety room as we speak right now. Right, they are good enough to win with. They have been consistent. They played well, and look, and you still have Dan Quinn. So it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that Donovan Wilson was going to leave and re-sign somewhere else, wherever Dan Quinn ended up the coach at, just because Dan Quinn pretty much saved the man's career by making him a starter. But now that Dan Quinn is back, you can at least get Donovan Wilson for the next year. You can at least sign him to a 1-year deal to keep the safety room together for one more hurrah, right? Because Curse is in the final year of his deal. Like Wilson, you can re-sign him, keep him on the team. Hooker, I think he might be in the final year of his deal. So just re-up the safeties you have. The safeties you have are already good enough to get the job done. Yeah, I will get rid of Barr. I would definitely get rid of Anthony Barr get younger there at the other outside linebacker spot. He did not live up to the hype, and I am guilty of being one of the guys to fan the flames on the hype train, right? I made an article. I came on West Coast Show, talk about how good of a signing it was, yada, yada, this and that. I made a bad analysis on him. Now, to be fair to me, like looking at his prior work, the things he did previous seasons, I did not expect for him to fall off, right? He looked like a bad sack of dope out there. But, just from looking what he did the prior season, his resume, I thought he was, positioned to have a good year. And I was horribly, horribly mistaken about that. So, yeah, definitely get rid of Anthony Barr. Bring in somebody who still has their left athleticism in their body. He's decent with he was decent with the Vikings, but he wasn't decent with us. I expected him with his football IQ in Dan Quinn's system to play his ass off, and he did not. So it is what it is, at that standpoint. Might need a new corner, or are we good? I don't know what the Cowboys are going to do, right? Because there are a couple possibilities. The Cowboys could kick, they could kick Bland out from slot corner and play him on the boundary, and then move Israel to slot because Izzy was playing good at slot, right? And then you would have Trayvon Diggs, Bland on the outside. Then you have a very big nickel corner in Izzy, who was a 6'4" guy. Like he is 6'4" tall. He's a big ass nickel. So like you would have a lot of length and ball skill on the field at one time if they wanted to do that. Or you could leave Bland there. You can leave Izzy as your fourth corner, and then you can make a trade or use the draft to get a premier boundary corner in here. So we could maybe make a trade for Jalen Ramsey if he doesn't want to be there anymore. We could trade for another proven corner, or we could use a top 100 pick and get another cornerback. Like we missed the last time we picked the corner in the second round. But, if we just go BPA this time, instead of trying to do, totally scheme fit, it might work. Because remember, we had an opportunity to draft Asante Samuel Jr., right? Because he went several picks after we got Bossman. And they did not want him because of his size and his length. And he has been one of the best cornerbacks in football since he got into the league. Like, he is a dog. You need guys like him on your team. We missed out on him. I hate that. But, we'll have to go back to the drawing board. So, yeah. So, man, I gave y'all about an hour of some content. I have some family things I got to attend to. So, I appreciate y'all for the love, the support, remember to go ahead and like and subscribe to the page. I would never ask you for money, but the subscribes and the shares and the likes go a long way to building the brand. So I do appreciate y'all for taking time out your Saturday afternoon to come rap with me for a little bit. And I'll be back later on in the day. So I appreciate y'all, and y'all hold it down now.